Mainland Olympians demonstrate their skills and interact with local residents. One injured in a collision between a jet foil and a fishing boat southwest of Lantau. And Italy mourns quake victims, including a girl who spent her last moments protecting her little sister.
Good evening. China's Olympic heroes continued their Hong Kong visit, showing off their skills at different venues around town. As Adam Shu reports, fans also caught rare glimpses of the athletes' personalities and ability to entertain.
The national diving team demonstrated their skills at Victoria Park swimming pool this morning.
Wow!
Chinese divers won 7 gold medals in Rio. Their precision and artistry always a crowd pleaser. However, someone else is getting the bulk of attention. Fan darling Fu Yuanhui doesn't want to be known as an internet sensation or a walking emoji. I'm first of all an athlete. And I forget what I have to say. There was more interaction with the athletes at this mall, where the Olympic champion women's volleyball team played games with their supporters. The squad won an unexpected gold medal at the games. This player said their coach, the legendary Leung, is like a mother to the team. Leung also won an Olympic title as a player at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. For this cyclist, their experience today was a much harder one, trading in their 2 wheels for 1. Meanwhile, fans who preferred an atmosphere of friendly competition poured into Queen Elizabeth Stadium. China's shuttlers took center stage. Former world champion Leung was locked in a 1 versus 3 game. Super Dan again, this time trying a different sport. To level the playing field, table tennis gold medalist Li Xiaoxia used her mobile phone as a racket. And it wasn't just fun and games. For these future Hong Kong players who received tips from their idols during a memorable training session. The Chinese gold medalist delegation will visit Hong Kong's youth athletes at the Sports Institute tomorrow. And afterwards, they will leave for Macau for the next leg of their journey. Adam Xu, TVB News.
A jet foil sailing from Macau to Hong Kong collided with a fishing boat southwest of Lantau at around midnight. 1 passenger suffered leg injuries and was sent to hospital. The Marine Department's following up the case. Rachel Leung reports.
The turbojet ferry Universal MK2003 arrived in Hong Kong at around 2:30 a.m. following the incident. There were 289 passengers and 10 crew members on board the vessel. It departed from Macau at 11:15 p.m. last night, heading for the Hong Kong-Macau ferry terminal in Sheung Wan. About 30 minutes into the voyage, the vessel and a 15-meter-long fishing boat collided with each other near Nau Tau Dao, southwest of Lantau Island. The Marine Department says the collision happened in mainland waters, and the Guangdong Maritime Safety Administration launched a rescue operation. Pictures posted online show the left side of the jet foil was damaged. Holes could be seen at the front of the vessel. A passenger suffered leg injuries. She was carried off the ferry on a stretcher. Other passengers said there was a loud bang and smoke could be seen after the collision. This woman complained about the lack of information from crew members of the ferry. Turbojet believes the heavy rain and thunderstorm last night might have contributed to the crash. It will look into the cause of the accident. The company also apologized to the passengers for the inconvenience caused. Rachel Leung, TVB News.
The head of the Electoral Affairs Commission says Legislative Council election candidates who feel they've been threatened should make a report to the authorities. This comes after Liberal Party member Chow Wing-kan announced he will pull out of the election. The Legislative Council elections will take place next Sunday. Today, the Electoral Affairs Commission Chairman Barnabas Fong inspected a mock polling station on Hong Kong Island. This year, there are around 3.78 million eligible voters in the 5 geographical constituencies. These voters will be given blue-colored ballot papers. As for the 3.47 million eligible voters in the super seats election, they will receive a gray-colored ballot form. Fong also spoke about Chow Wing-kan, the New Territories West geographical constituency candidate who pulled out of the election after claiming he was threatened.
Under our electoral law, especially the Corrupt and Illegal Practices Ordinance, it would be an offense to either bribe or to force people to vote or not to vote, or to stand or not to stand as the candidate. There are very serious consequences because it's a criminal offense and people are liable to up to 7 years imprisonment. And if anyone has received any offer of bribery or threat of violence or actual violence, I urge them to report the case to the law enforcement agencies immediately.
Fong added the Electoral Affairs Commission has not received any complaints so far. There are currently 20 lists of candidates in the New Territories West constituency. They're headed by Won Yun-tat, Andrew Wang, Ko Chi-fai, Chow Wing-kan, Jen Chung-tai, Kwong Kum-wan, Michael Tian, Ho Kwan-yu, Leung Chi-chung, Kwok Ka-ki, Wang Ho-ming, Lee Chut-yan, Wang Chun-kit, Alice Mack, Frederick Fong, Chan Han-pan, Clarence Chung, Hendrik Lui, Tong Wing-chi, and Eddie Chu. The Electoral Affairs Commission chairman also said the returning officers have the right to deny people from running in the elections.
An airliner made an emergency landing in the United States following a major problem with one of its 2 jet engines. No one was hurt. The Southwest Airlines plane was flying from New Orleans to Orlando with 99 passengers and 5 crew members on board. The Boeing 737 landed safely in Pensacola, Florida. Part of the left engine was missing, and the plane's fuselage was also damaged. Passengers say they heard a loud boom during the flight, but an airline spokesman said there was no explosion.
In the chaos of Italy's devastating earthquake comes a heartbreaking story of how an older sister's embrace allowed her younger sister to survive. Sonia Artero reports.
At a funeral mass for 35 of the 291 people killed in the earthquake, a Catholic bishop said he watched as firefighters used their bare hands to dig out 2 sisters buried in the rubble that was once their home. 9-year-old Giulia Rinaldo was found hugging her younger sister, Georgia.
Giulia morta, Georgia viva.
He's certain Giulia's embrace saved her sister's life. A firefighter who responded to the tragedy insists the embrace not only protected the younger child from being crushed, it created a pocket of air that enabled her to breathe and survive. As mass funerals are being held across central Italy, residents of San Angelo have found every building in their village completely destroyed. The recovery of this religious statue depicting the Madonna has given them hope. With so many buildings mangled in 3 of the worst-hit towns, farmers admit they're struggling to find shelter for their animals. Rubble, the height of mountains in Amatrice, is making it difficult to find more survivors. But search efforts are still going strong, with heavy machinery and trained dogs sifting through collapsed buildings one by one. In Rome, it's plate by plate. Chefs are donating money to quake-ravaged victims with every plate of pasta they make, and those donating admit it's a win-win.
The pasta è buono. It's so good. The pasta is great. So important for the city of Amatrice.
Voted one of Italy's most beautiful towns, Amatrice was hammered by the calamity, with almost every house in the historic center destroyed. With thousands of people rendered homeless, Prime Minister Matteo Renzi has declared a state of emergency and authorized 50 million euros for quake relief. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
The top two candidates vying to lead France's main conservative party into the next presidential election are drawing battle lines over the two main issues of immigration and security. Former President Nicolas Sarkozy and former Prime Minister Alain Juppé are fighting for the same job by highlighting their differences. James Aiken reports.
71-year-old Alain Juppé and 61-year-old Nicolas Sarkozy are by far the top two candidates for the November primaries that will nominate the leader of Les Républicains. The winner will take the party into April's presidential election.
Aussi parce que c'est ce qu'attendent les Français.
Juppé, who is currently mayor of Bordeaux, kicked off his campaign this weekend by pledging deep reforms without exploiting fears. He called for restraint when it came to ideological debates, a reference to his hardline rival, Sarkozy. Over the past week, Sarkozy has grabbed headlines by launching a campaign anchored on a tough law and order platform, including warnings that France's identity is at threat from immigration. In contrast, Juppé talked about bringing hope and stressed that France, more than ever, needs to be united. But as security issues continue to dominate France, Juppé also promised to be tough on crime and build more prison space. Several supporters welcomed the fact that he did not mention the heated burkini controversy. On Thursday, Sarkozy called for a nationwide ban on the full-body swimwear known as the burkini, worn by some Muslim women. A French court on Friday suspended the ban on a Mediterranean town's beach. Sarkozy said yesterday he will stand by the ban if elected back to the presidency in 2017. Tough talk on immigration while positioning himself as a strong defender of French values has helped Sarkozy close some of the gap on Juppé. His ratings improved further after recent deadly attacks by Islamist militants in Nice and Normandy. But a survey out yesterday shows Juppé's lead has widened again. Analysts say that given the governing socialists' deep unpopularity, the winner of the conservative primary stands a good chance of becoming France's next head of state. James Aiken, TVB News.
A group monitoring the Syrian war says Turkey-backed Syrian rebels have captured 2 villages from forces allied to the Kurdish-backed Syrian Democratic Forces in northern Syria. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said at least 20 civilians were killed and dozens more wounded in one of the villages during Turkish airstrikes and artillery attacks. Turkey said one of its soldiers was killed Saturday when a rocket hit a tank that it said came from a Kurdish-controlled area. It was the first Turkish death reported in Turkey's campaign in Syria. Meanwhile, suspected Kurdish militants fired rockets at the airport in Turkey's main southeastern city of Diyarbakir on Saturday. Passengers and staff scrambled for shelter. Flights resumed after a brief pause during a police investigation.
And elsewhere in Syria, rebel fighters evacuated from a Damascus suburb have arrived in the opposition-held northern province of Idlib. The evacuation is part of a deal reached between the rebels and the government. Under the terms of the agreement, around 700 gunmen will be allowed safe exit from Daraya to Idlib. At the same time, 4,000 civilians will be taken temporarily to a shelter south of Daraya. And still ahead. In England, a bridge collapses on a busy motorway after being hit by a truck. Hong Kong's home-built airplane takes off for a round-the-world flight. An international military tattoo in Moscow's Red Square.